I'm also aware that we have a limited amount of time, so what I'm going to do actually is to invite both of you to pick up on this idea of consciousness, transformation, and freedom, which in many ways seems to lie at the heart of what you said about Sri Aurobindo, the fact that he was actually born on the 15th of August, which proved later to be the day of Indian independence. And the fact also that what we know of Sri Aurobindo's life, it's a remarkable trajectory, even for those who haven't studied him as deeply as both Makarand and Pariksith have. The fact that this was a man of radical political action, who becomes a man of radical inner action, who moves, in a sense, from activism to stillness. And at the same time, the commitment to freedom remains unchanged. And he speaks of freedom not merely as political freedom for India, but there's a much deeper resonance there of spiritual freedom. And Pariksith even talks in his book of Sri Aurobindo's words of India as a Vishwaguru, a beacon for humanity, in a sense. So I'm going to ask both of you to reflect on this idea of freedom, what it meant to Sri Aurobindo, and perhaps I would even ask you to take a leap 75 years into Indian independence. How do you think Sri Aurobindo might view the challenges and the accomplishments of India today?
Well, I'll take freedom, because freedom is always something we have to be on guard for. And he was quite radical in his understanding of freedom. And of course, freedom is at many levels. Physical freedom, which India needed. India was colonized land. But bigger than, more importantly, the mental colonization that happened. We forgot our own genius. And whenever a nation forgets its own genius, its own dharma, its own way of being, then no matter whether it's physically independent or not, it is still colonized. So India, in that sense, became physically free in 1947, but the decolonization is a process that's still happening on both sides. And I'm not taking political sides here. That decolonization is so deep inside us. And I've read a psychologist who said that we suffer from collective PTSD, which has been carrying on for a few hundred years. And it takes a few generations. A very conscious process of figuring out our own hang-ups. And it is something that he worried about constantly. He very early on, he said, even in the 30s, he said, India is going to be free. He saw the path. And the great thing about mystics, great seers, is they can see far into the future. He said, physically India is going to be free, but what happens to that independence? What are we going to do with that independence? That is my big preoccupation. And so his a few suggestions that I find very valid, which we can see even in concretized now, what we see in Aurobindo, is an attempt. Of course, it's not a perfect attempt, it's not a perfect solution, but a coming together of humanity from all paths of life, all religions, all countries, all races, all belief systems, and to try to do something different as equals. Creating a different, not just a city, but a system or a thought of political, physical, mental, social, economic organization which is centered around a greater theme of man's fullest possibility. He was big on freedom. No way would he allow any kind of suppression. Freedom even to make mistakes. Individual freedom to be for people to make their choices and to learn from. Because without freedom, there is no learning. You can force people into a conditioning, but there is no true learning. And I think that is the message even today. We have to be careful when we pick sides. We have to be very careful in making sure that when we start killing other people's freedom, we're killing our own freedom. So I know we have a lot to talk about, but I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you. I'll just add a couple of points to what Dr. Singh said. And the first thing I wanted to say was to go back to your question about Sri Aurobindo, the revolutionary, and then Sri Aurobindo, the yogi. And what's the interconnection between them? So I think that what Sri Aurobindo ended up saying was that outside, out there, you need an evolution. And inside, when it comes to consciousness, you need a revolution. So he kind of, in a way, turned it around, because initially he said, let's have a revolution outside. And then he realized that no, until you change from inside. So all change has to be inside out, not outside. Like Marx would say outside. So now coming to freedom. You know, freedom is the precondition for transformation. But freedom is very difficult to accomplish because it's not just political freedom. It's not just freedom from dogma, whether it's religious dogma, whether it's ideological dogma, but freedom from conditioning. You know, freedom from all these algorithms who are controlling our behavior. And you'll notice, in 24 hours, we are free only for a few moments because our behavior is so compulsive. As soon as we get up, we look at the phone, someone is sending you a message, there's an expectation, and there's a chain of action and reaction. And we are trapped. And the word conditioning, of course, comes from the vocabulary of J. Krishnamurti. And it's a very old vocabulary. It goes back to the Buddha himself, who said, a conditioned mind cannot be a free mind. And unfortunately, Sri Aurobindo has also become a form of conditioning. It's also become a dogma. So, you see how these things, it's very ironic, how these things, there is no formula, as it were. You know, you have to practice it. You've got to jump into the water, as it were. Stop speculating about whether it's warm or cold. You have to walk the path. And only when you experience that freedom and that transformation. But the thing that Sri Aurobindo did, once again, which was different from the others, he talked about spiritual evolution. He said, look, humanity, man, even the word man or woman, it comes from man, manu, mind. It's got the same Indo-European root. It really means a person, a being that can think. So he's basically saying that the mental is not the highest faculty of the human being. And as long as you're stuck in the mind is always dividing, measuring, dividing, comparing, contrasting, adding, subtracting, and that's very useful. If you want to make a building like this, if you want to dig the earth and take out petroleum, you want to fly a plane, you want to send a rocket, you want to make this device, you need the mind. But, you know, you need a different faculty. And that's when we're so individualized, we're so individualistic. I can see the sign in 5 minutes. The point is, that's the mind, that's the time. And time is a human construct. We respect it, just say it. We're going to respect the human construct. What Sri Aurobindo is saying, he called it supramentalization. So, we can't think as individuals, we have to think as a species. And as a species, you versus me, black versus white, man versus woman, Indian versus whoever, it just doesn't work. Because, you know, as the Jews say, as the Jewish people say, if you save one life, you've saved humanity. And if you kill one person, you've killed humanity. So there has to be a species transformation so that we can start living in a different way. And that is what Sri Aurobindo predicted. He says, it's called supramentalization, and he says it's not just for the chosen few. Just as everybody who's human can think, because we are born with that ability, all of us, or whatever is going to replace us, we are all going to have superconsciousness as our birthright. And we will all stop living in this fashion, which is highly destructive to ourselves and to the habitat and all the other life forms around us. So that is his prediction, that it has to happen. Or, which he doesn't say, or will perish. So transform or perish. I think that's the choice.
Since we are running short of time, I cannot throw this over to the audience without asking both of you to tell us something about the understanding of integral yoga. What is it?
But we run out of time.
No, we haven't. We haven't. We have ways of transcending time. So,
She overruled time. Only devis can do that. She's a goddess, so she overrules time.
The integral yoga, very simply put, is every aspect of your life is yoga. And what does yoga mean? Word means to join. So connecting what we do with each other, but what we do with ourselves. Because each of us is, as has been said by the wit before, is a civil war. We have different factions. The mind is going this way, the heart is going this way, the body is this way, some feeling that this way. And whether it's healing or any which way, healing or feeling. So the yoga is to join, bring all your parts together. And Sri Aurobindo said it beautifully, all life is yoga. So every part, whether you're working, whether you're thinking, whether you're worshipping, whether you're doing any kind of process of purification or Kriya Yoga, all those parts are integrated at a level deeper than we realize. And once we start connecting them on a conscious level, that is integral yoga. It goes beyond a lot of things. It brings Vedanta together, Vedanta, the ancient Indian way of being, with Tantra, with Bhakti, which is worship, with work, with knowledge, and even Western approaches, Christianity, the beautiful experiences of Christ, bringing all that wisdom together, because he called it the psychic, the heart, bringing all that together into a one unified way of living. That was integral yoga.
in fact, Makarand, you also talk of its collective dimension, the fact that it's not merely about individual liberation. Could you say more about that?
I think so. I mean, he's explained it, Dr. Singh has explained it beautifully. I just want to add a footnote, which is that nothing is excluded from the intention and process of your transformation, including feeling wretched, feeling disconnected, feeling depressed, whatever. That's also yoga. Nothing is excluded, but you have to become conscious of it, that this is my opportunity. This terrible sense of anomie, isolation, depression, whatever, because we all go through it. I call it the pit to the summit. And that's my daily journey. I find myself in the pit every day and also on the summit, almost every day. I don't have hubris. But this is our journey, collectively as well. But everything is grist to the mill if you're a yogi. Nothing is excluded. If you've got a headache, that can be your yoga. Headache yoga. Can't find a parking slot, parking yoga. Talking yoga. Everything, if you bring that dimension of consciousness. Now, as you said, it's not just about individuals, okay? And we haven't found the formula to do collective yoga yet. There are these communities, they're doing these experiments. Are they successful? We've heard about Aurobindo. They're not entirely successful, but they're not entirely failures either. If you have an organization, if you have a community, if you have an institution where more than one person, even a family, can function not necessarily as ego-less beings, because that's very hard, but you suspend your ego. If you can function like that, then you're doing integral yoga. You're doing collective integral yoga. So it's like saying, you enter, welcome home, just drop your ego. Forget it, you know. It's not about you and me. And I think that integral yoga, when done collectively, is like a chain reaction. I was saying it to Dr. Maria. See, the molecules, they start vibrating in synchronicity. So, when she got up yesterday and started saying something, I guess all of us began to share in that energy field. Because she said, we are nothing but energy beings. You know, the bodies are seemingly substantial, but we are all in a vibration. And today, when my friend and senior Mr. Rajiv Malhotra spoke, I wanted to say to him that it's not the words that matter, it's the dhwani. It's that vibration. You stood there, didn't matter what you said beyond the point. But there was a vibration you conveyed, which was full of love and affirmation and the possibilities of change and of hope. And people will take that away. They'll forget your words. So I'm saying collective yoga is about creating spaces, communities, and families. Yoga is not done in ashrams. You should make your home, your family into an ashram. You don't have to leave your family and go into an ashram. The ashram must enter your family. So welcome Om must enter your home. And that is collective yoga. Thank you.
Since Dr. Maria has invoked vibrations, picked up again today by Makarand, and since the tone was set by Rajiv's talk this morning, I think what we're really doing, even in this session, is attempting to offer an invitation to explore this prodigious world of Sri Aurobindo's, of which his word is just a small part. Both Makarand and Pariksith have contributed in terms of the word, but they've also been very deeply affected on other levels. And I think the invitation is to that as well, as much to the pause as to the word. Their books are available, but for now we have a little less than 10 minutes, and if there's anyone in the audience who would like to share or ask any questions, we have time for that.
It's really stretched time.
Hi. Yeah, this is very interesting. Thank you. So when you were speaking, you brought up Marx as like sort of this inverse Aurobindo, like the outside coming in, and you also brought up like you basically what sounded to me like Marx's concept of the species being, of realizing our identity as a species rather than an individual, and it's very interesting because it's sort of like, because Marx, he said he turned Hegel on his head. Well, you're sort of saying it's like Aurobindo turns Marx on his head, and I definitely agree with that about the need for the internal revolution, for the external evolution. But the problem that I always see with that is how to coordinate between individuals, between people. I guess you kind of talked about the collective yoga, but how to solve this problem on like a societal level, if it requires an internal revolution first.
Thank you. I think they go hand in hand. It's not chicken and egg. But we've seen in the last century, which was the bloodiest in the history of the planet in terms of violence and deaths and killings, that change through fiat, through administrative fiat, through some kind of ideological superimposition, killing class enemies, wiping out people, whatever, it doesn't work. And it's really a crime to do that. And so that experiment in social transformation, whether it was in China or the Soviet Union, failed and produced so much human misery that's why the question of freedom is so important. No one can force you to change. The change has to be voluntary, and I think that we are all, we all experience pain and pleasure and suffering and happiness. So there's a collective dimension, to human existence. Buddha called it dukkha, but you can call it ananda if you want to stand the Buddha on his head, so to speak. The whole point is that since we are all in the same predicament, it doesn't matter if you're 5 steps ahead of me. It's like a train. The engine is in the front, but it can't, go faster than the last bogie, the guard bogie who waves the flag. So we're all in it together. So in that sense, there's no individual liberation or salvation possible. And that is the bodhisattva idea, in fact, that it's always going to be collective. And I mean, my freedom is completely dependent on your freedom. I can't be free at your expense. That's a contradiction in terms. And this will happen again, not through the United Nations or not through people sitting down in a room and coming up with some collective, Bretton Woods institution. Those are important. If you reach Aurobindo's ideal of human unity and the human cycle, all these discussions are important because they're a part of this worldwide conversation. But, when I realized that the Amazon is my land, it's not just Brazil's land, things like that, only then those things can happen. So the point is, every small step that we can take as individuals will count. Every small step that we can take, even in the political or educational or medical or whatever our profession is, all of that will count. It's not that I will be transformed and then things will happen. No, transformation is continuous, ongoing. We are all interconnected. A few steps ahead, a few steps behind. And it's not going to wait for some change that you will do on yourself first, some operation. No, it's a continuous process. And it's happening all the time. And the only choice is, do you want to be a part of it? Do you want to do it consciously? Or, should there be a meteorite, God forbid, or another pandemic, or whatever. I mean, Mother Nature will right the balance, whether we want to participate or not. So, in that sense, it's inevitable. But the invitation is to co-partner with nature and join hands and not work against nature, not have an Anthropocene which is so damaging, as it were, to the natural world. And that's the realignment that we have to try. And at all levels, that is integral. So those who are interested in political action, by all means. Those who want to do medicine, yes. I'm a construction worker, good. Right in that building I'm being. So everything is interconnected. That's the point. Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think it...
Okay. Is there anyone else? Yes.
So thank you for a nice talk. It was very nice. What I wanted to ask about is education. I was a teacher at one point, and I have a big concern about the new generation. And I don't feel that even we come from different backgrounds, and we have something that we like a base. And whenever we feel fearful, we can go back to our base. But what are we doing for the new generation? How are we trying to integrate all what we're talking about, which is yoga and integrating yoga, integral yoga, in education, and we as people, we as adults, how we're helping the next generation to get into it. Thank you.
The answer is not enough. We are not doing enough, I feel, for our children, the education, and let me take it one step further. We are not doing enough for ourselves. And so where does that start? Are we going to start teaching our children, or do we start teaching ourselves? And I always feel that we first look within and start learning ourselves, becoming more sensitive, becoming more aware. That is where the true learning starts. We underestimate the power of parents over children. And I can see in my life how what my parents or what my grandparents aspired for is flowering in my life without my even knowing. And we see that often. When a mother conceives what he holds with that child, how that fructifies in that child's life. So the child's education starts even before conception. Parents have to become aware. This is an ancient knowledge I think every tradition has. And I think if we want our children to become better human beings, let's start with ourselves, each one of us. Let's become better at each moment. Teaching children is a very challenging thing, but at a very basic level, a very simple thing. You have to give them a lot of space and a lot of love, which means you have to learn that first. And children, as beautifully said, hear with their eyes. You can give them all the theory you want, it doesn't matter. They see who you are, and that's the biggest lesson. So yes, we need to do a lot more for our children, but I think the first step starts now with ourselves.
That's really beautifully put. All I wanted to say to you, ma'am, is that we've outsourced education, school district, state, and so forth. And it doesn't mean that all of us can homeschool. But we have to do it. They're our children, and I think they're our teachers. I don't think I'm the teacher. They are the teacher, because I see in them an uncontaminated, relatively uncontaminated consciousness and brain, and they're innocent, and they're capable of feeling, experiencing things which I can't, because my mind is already, conditioned. I can't see that, B for this math. I can't feel it because I've already got jaded. But this baby is looking at everything every day. They're exploding. So they are the teachers, and just let them be. Instead of molding them, teaching them this or that, and making them this or that. And in our school districts, they're always trying to now they're even medicating these children and saying because they're so unruly or whatever. So we can't outsource this. It's like outsourcing yoga. No. It's too important. We've got to do it ourselves to the extent that we can. That's what I think.
I would have loved to conclude with the sound of poetry, but unfortunately that is not to be. But Sri Aurobindo, the poet, and Sri Aurobindo and his many other manifestations, you can hear, you can learn about all of that in the books authored by both Makarand and Pariksith, which are available here at the store. Thank you all for being here, and thank you Makarand, and thank you Pariksith.